Buonasera, I'm your host Richard Novello for Italian Americans Midlife Crisis. Salve. Tonight's program will be on the Italian writer, Nobel Prize winning Italian writer Luigi Pirandello, who won the Nobel Prize in 1934. Pirandello's writings deal with his relativistic beliefs. That is a theory that holds that truth and morals are not absolute, but are relative to the individuals that hold these beliefs. However, there are various forms of relativism. One is called totalistic relativism, and that holds that truth and morals are not absolute, but are relative to the individuals that hold these beliefs. And then there's what's called limited relativism, which affirms the truth of God and the moral teachings of God. He wrote of the essence of reality, the illusions we create that fulfill our perceived or actual inner need. That the image we have of ourselves is not necessarily the image others have of us. Therefore, the reaction of others to ourselves sometimes confuses us. That we can't see ourselves as others see us, and that society forces us to wear masks, or that we choose to. That we assume roles to play in society, and that we can only live in a society in which there is mutual respect for the roles we play or for the mask that we wear. And that in life, we continually delude ourselves. But curiously, his true name is not given in the play. He's an Italian aristocrat who, during a pageant, has fallen from his horse. And at the time, he was dressed as Enrico IV. And since that time, which is 20 years prior to the time of the play, he has believed himself and lived as Enrico IV. Pageants are something that continually happen in Italia today. It's the way in which Italians keep alive their history. His sister, in order not to cause him further psychological or emotional damage, has arranged for him to live as Enrico IV in a suite of palatial rooms where he is attended to by servants who are dressed in the period and bear names of the period. She has also instructed her son, the young Marquis Carlo di Noli, who is a character in the play, that he is to continue the charade, but also to seek a cure, for it was her belief that her brother could be cured. The play, of course, exists on various levels. There is the historic level. Enrico IV was in conflict with the Pope Gregory VII, and that conflict was mediated by one of the great women of medieval or medievale Europa. Her name was La Duchessa Matilda of La Toscana. Matilda of La Toscana ruled most of northern Italia and had possessions in La Francia. And she, who at one point would mediate this conflict, at another time would enter into battle with Enrico, and was said to be the first woman to lead an army onto the battlefields of Europa. On a certain day comes to the villa a group of people, mostly known by Enrico before the fall from his horse, and as required, they're required to wear the costumes of the period and to assume specific identities and characters of the period. There is La Marchesa Matilda Spina. It gets a bit confusing because there is the historic character Matilda of La Toscana and the contemporary character Matilda Spina. Both have the same Christian names. She comes with her daughter Frida, who is engaged to the young Marquis Carlo di Noli, who is nephew to Enrico. She also comes with the Baron Tito Belcredi, who is said to be her lover. It's important to note that Enrico, before the fall from his horse, was in love with Matilda Spina, although that love was not fully requited. Also in the group comes a doctor, Dionysius Genoni, and the purpose of the visit is to enact a cure through a form of shock therapy and bring Enrico back to reality. That follows, Enrico is talking to his courtiers, not to the visitors, and perhaps he's also speaking to you. In the scene, he appears to reveal that perhaps he is sane after all, though it's difficult to tell. His behavior at sometimes seems rational, at other times not. Later in the play, he does reveal, or he states, that although he has lived this way for the past 20 years, 8 of those 20 years he has known who he was, but has chosen to continue to live a lifestyle which is more congenial to him than the life he lived before the fall from his horse, when often in society he was an object of ridicule. Now comes to the villa a group of people who society considers to be sane, and yet they are dressed and acting according to the dictates of a man they believe to be mad. And now Enrico IV by Luigi Pirandello.